Hi, this is Robert with Cruzbike, and today we're going to be installing our new adjustable carbon fiber seat and headrest. To do this, we're going to fully replace the existing stock seat and headrest tubes. Alright, your new seat comes with everything you see here, including installation hardware. The seat base is permanently attached to the bike. The top section here is the adjustable section. We'll go over that in the install. It also includes either a new seat back yoke or an interior bracket depending on your bike, and the main headrest mount for the seat, and a headrest pad. And again, all hardware is included. Alright, to get our install going, the first thing we're going to want to do is remove the headrest tubes and our stock seat. Now your new seat comes with a new Venizit pad depending on the size you ordered, so we're not going to be using the stock pad initially for this. We're going to loosen our Perez clamp, and we'll remove our headrest tubes here. Now note, with the new seat you don't need to use the old headrest anymore, but you can leave the tubes installed. Depending on the adjustment of your seat, they may be further out or further in. If you're using a race case or other mounts such as lights or cameras that you've already been using, so you can still leave that in, you just won't need it with a headrest pad on it anymore once the new seat is installed. Now of course, depending on your height, your fit may vary, so definitely get the best fit you can with the new headrest or with the stock headrest if it indeed does work for you. Alright, so here I'm working on a new V20C, which the stock seat uses a yoke around the frame. We're not going to use it for the new seat, so we're going to take that off, and then we'll remove the front bolts for the seat and remove that as well. Have all of our bolts undone, we can simply remove the stock seat and get ready to install our new seat. As you can see, the lower section of the seat has holes that match up with the existing mounts. So we can use the included hardware or your existing hardware to mount it. And then the top goes right inside the rails and bolts to the base separately. So once everything is in place, we can simply slide the seat back and forth to adjust it for our perfect fit. Alright, so the first step is to install the base. Now you'll also note on the base you have two holes. You have a set on the interior, which is for the bracket, which we will use for the Vendetta or the V20C. The seat base also includes a set of outer holes. Those holes are for the S40. So when you're mounting to an S40, you're going to use a new included seat yoke to go around the frame. Alright, so we're going to line up our bolts, simply install the seat base into the existing holes. Temporarily put our bolts and nuts together there. It's also again very important not to over tighten these bolts and nuts. The seat just needs to be snug up against the frame to prevent creaking. It doesn't have to be torqued down too tight to damage the carbon. Okay, now normally we'd use a yoke on the back, but in this case we're going to use the interior mount. Now you'll note that the interior mount is scalloped out in a curved pattern to fit right inside the circle in the hydroformed tube. I'm going to hold it there with my finger up against the tube, and once we have that temporarily held in place, we can set the base down on top, thread our bolts into the mount, and then tighten those bolts down. And again, it's very important not to over tighten these bolts. They just need to be snug. highly recommend a little bit of Loctite on those bolts if you have it. But because they are inside the seat, they should not come loose. If you're going to use the old headrest tubes, now is the time to install them and tighten the Perez clamp. Otherwise, tighten the Perez clamp all the way or remove it entirely from the frame. And once the top is secure, we can use our nut driver and our 3mm Allen to tighten down the front bolts again. Again, don't over tighten these, just make sure they're engaged and nice and snug. Now that we have our seat base installed, we can install the upper adjustable section. We have our adjustment channel here. The seat is going to simply sit inside it with some M6 hardware that's included. Now, depending on your height, I highly recommend using whichever set of holes spans the most distance in the channel. So if you're tall like this, it's going to be a couple holes. If you're a little shorter, you're going to have more overlap, and I highly recommend tightening down with the most distance between the bolts as you can get. So I'm going to estimate, for me, the adjustment using the first holes and then a couple sets up. We're going to install our bolts and our washers and our nuts underneath here. And as you can see, everything is a nice smooth adjustment. Alright, now I've estimated for myself where the seat might be. And I'm going to tighten these down temporarily, make them snug. Then I'm going to test my fit. Takes a little bit of time. You can get it very close just by getting it adjusted and then having a seat on the frame. Get a feel for how the curve hits your back. As always, fit and adjustment takes a little bit of time. So you'll probably have to get a handful of rides in before you really know what adjustment you want on your seat. Once you've decided a good placement for that, make sure those bolts are secure. Now we'll move on to our headrest. The new Cruzbike headrest is very adjustable. The main bar can be rotated forward or backward depending on how much distance you need from the seat, and the adjustment bracket can be moved forward and backward as well. So either direction you mount it, you have lots of forward, backward, and vertical adjustment of the headrest. For me, I like my headrest to be facing forward, so I'm going to move these brackets around to the other side before I mount it to the seat. And again, everything here is modular, so if something needs a little bit of adjustment, simply rotate it around the other direction. And you have a nice easy mount in the existing holes. We'll mount our first bracket there, and then our second bracket will mount right through the top set of holes, and then the main section of the headrest bolts right to those brackets. Now again, between using different holes vertically to raise or lower the headrest, you can also raise or lower the headrest using the adjustable arm at the top. Alright, now we're ready to mount our pad. My pad here has the foam glued down to the base. Your pad will either be glued like this or separate. If it's separate, it simply bolts to the new headrest mount. If it's glued, just peel it back a little bit and then insert the bolts through the holes, nice and easy, and then bolt the entire unit to the bracket on the back of the headrest. Once everything is nice and secure there, you can simply put that foam back and reattach the cover over the foam. Alright, we've pre-installed our Velcro for our Venizit. Have a good shot here of the headrest and how everything mounts together. Everything's looking nice and clean. Let's move on to the install of the pad and a preliminary fit. Once everything's installed and looking good, we can give it a try. Now here I'm getting a feel for where this headrest is. I like it to be a little bit higher on my neck and tilted. So I'm going to simply have it snug down a little bit, and then I can play with the position. I can also make sure I'm down in the seat far enough to make sure that I'm in a good position for the seat. Now because I need to raise it, I'm simply going to loosen the bolts attaching it to the brackets, and I'm going to move it up to a new set of holes. For me, I'm going to go up 2 sets of holes, and that'll raise that headrest to the position that I like. Now, this is all preliminary fit. Once you get on the bike on the road with your gear and your helmet on, you'll get a better sense for exactly where you want to adjust your seat length and your headrest. Once everything's in a good preliminary position, make sure all of the bolts and nuts are nice and snug. Now it's time to gear up, give it a ride, and make further adjustments. Alright, there you have it. Your new adjustable Cruzbike carbon fiber seat and headrest is installed. Again, the installation instructions are very similar for the S40 and for the V20C and for older V20s and Vendettas. This seat is designed to fit all of the hydroformed series bikes. It will not fit the QX100, Quest, or T50 series. It must be supported by the hydroform tube. As always, thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at support@cruzbike.com, and as always, happy riding.